everyone, my name is Abhilasha and I'm a VARC educator on Unacademy. I've been teaching for the last 22 years or so, and today I'll be talking to you about eclectic reading and reading styles. In this Skill Builder VARC course, I will be covering reading comprehension for you. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. So here is a little bit about myself. I've been teaching for the last 22 years. I've cracked CAT VARC with a 99.99 percentile 9 times. I've co-authored a book called Quantitative Aptitude and Reasoning, in which I have written the reasoning portion. I've trained over 1 lakh students for exams such as CAT, CLAT, GMAT, GATE, Bank PO, SSC, UPSC and so on. The agenda of today's class is very simple. We'll learn how to recognize different types of passages in terms of both structures and genres. We will know various methods of reading. I'll give you a special tip on how to read a passage, and we will also give you a bonus. Also, at the end of today's session, there will be a practice session that will be available to you towards the end. So please make sure that you get that also. Alright, reading comprehension. Let's start learning about it. Now, what is reading comprehension? As you already know, you have been doing reading comprehension in school throughout. So, you get a passage and based on that passage, you answer a few questions. So, what kind of passages are there and what is it that you learn about it? Well, you have done this in school, so you already know it's an unseen passage. It's a passage that you have never seen before. Well, wonderful. What kind of questions were you doing in school? In school, the questions are very direct. So they would ask you questions based on data in the passage. Whatever facts were mentioned in the passage, you would answer questions based on those facts. And you would answer those questions. And the answers would be, of course, very open-ended. And you would write the answers to those questions in your school. Now, here the answers are not open-ended. You get a multiple choice question and you answer questions based on that. In CAT, there are 4 passages that are given. With each passage, there are 4 questions. So, a total of 16 questions is covered in the reading comprehension section. The passages are 450 to 550 words in length generally. They're not more than 600 words right now. Earlier, we used to have longer passages, but now we don't. So, that's a little bit about the reading comprehension. Now, there are a variety of topics or genres that are covered in reading comprehension, and this is this is something that a lot of students ask a lot of questions about. That, ma'am, do I need to be familiar with a lot of topics, a variety of topics? Do I need to know all the genres of RC? Well, guys, let me be very matter of fact and frank with you. This is a myth that you need to have read everything. Well, why does a B school test you on reading comprehension? They are testing you on a comprehension to understand if you will be able to take something unusual, something that you have not read before, and understand and assess data from it, right? If you are able to assess data from any such passage, it is sorted. You will be able to get through. So, when we are looking at reading comprehension, guys, it is very, very simple that there will be different types of topics. The idea is here not to test you on your prior knowledge, what you already know. The idea is to test you on what you can understand from whatever you are reading. So therefore, even if you're not familiar with a particular topic, are you able to read something and are you able to comprehend it and are you able to draw inferences and conclusions and use that data elsewhere is what is expected out of you. So therefore, even if you have no knowledge of a particular genre, it's perfectly okay. You can still do well. That said, if you have idea of a particular genre, your life will become a little easier. If you have read topics from a particular type, then you can become familiar, you will find it easier. So for example, this year in the CAT paper, there were topics that were familiar to students. Now the minute they found a topic that was familiar, they were reading something on Buddhism, something on corporate work culture, whatever. So they got very excited. But that excitement has to also translate into accuracy in terms of answers. In which case it is not the genre but the level of the difficulty of the passage and the questions and how well you are able to handle your reading comprehensions, that's important. So for anyone who's doing reading comprehension, fret not if you have not read a particular type of articles. All you need to do is you need to be able to read and understand. So genre is important but not life and death. Now, there will be different types of passages in terms of the structure. So the passages could be descriptive, they could be analytical, they could be narrative, they could be based on sequence, they could be, based on a timeline, they could be a comparison contrast type of passage. So there are different types of structures that are there. So understanding that is very important. Also understanding what the main idea or the theme of a particular passage should be. That's a key to understanding a passage. So therefore, if you're solving a reading comprehension, you should be able to understand what the main idea or theme of a particular passage is. Why is it that a writer has written a particular passage? If you're able to understand why is he writing it, what is he writing about, then your understanding of the passage becomes deeper. You're able to see what the writer is saying. You're able to understand and you're able to answer questions based on that. And that's important. The question types are very many types. So you have factual questions, though those are very few now. You have inferential questions. Now inferential question means you understand what the writer is saying and then conclude something from that and answer questions based on that. You have application based questions. So you take what the writer is saying, you kind of extrapolate from that and then you give an answer to what would you do if you were in the writer's shoes or something like that. You have exception questions. So which of these would be true except, or which of these would be false except. So take the writer's thoughts, eliminate those, and then whatever is left is the exception question. You have critical reasoning questions also. So questions which are based on critical reasoning, asking you, okay, here are certain things that you have understood. What is the logic? What is the structure of the passage? And how does the author answer questions on that? So critical reasoning is another portion of your questions that are tested very, very often. So some basics of reading comprehension that we are talking about. Now you have to remember that reading comprehension is 66% or 2/3 of your CAT paper in terms of VRC. There are 24 questions in VRC, out of which 16 are from reading comprehension. So you will have to solve the reading comprehension questions to crack the CAT 99.99 percentile. Again, I will reiterate because out of these 24 questions that are there, right, there are 16 in RC and there are 8 in VA. Now to crack a 99, you need to do 12 questions correctly. That is 50%, right? So that means even if you did all VA, you would still need to do a few RCs correctly, right? And therefore RC is something that you cannot miss. It's a must do. Okay. Also RCs, generally 2 RCs are very doable in CAT, and therefore you must keep it in mind that you will be solving 2 RCs. So don't miss out on doing RCs. It's going to be integral to your CAT preparation. Life and death. Okay. So reading comprehension, absolutely essential. And also it is one question that you will find in all exams, whether it is CAT, whether it is ZAT, whether it is NMAT, whether it is SNAP. SNAP, it is not being tested. Maybe when SNAP goes back to the 2-hour pattern, they will start bringing back reading comprehension. As of now, SNAP is not testing you. MASET, TIS, name an exam, CMAT, MAT, name an exam, it's there. IFT, they have the longest kind of reading comprehension passages. So every exam you will have reading comprehension. So this is a section which if you can ace, guys, you will be able to crack this exam beautifully. So make sure that you are doing very well in reading comprehension. You're practicing it beautifully. You're preparing very, very well for your reading comprehension. Alright, so let us continue and let us get into the thick of things about reading comprehension. So here is a question that everybody will ask you. How many types of passages are there? So let's learn about the various types of passages and what all can be tested in your exam. Now, when I say types of passages, I don't really mean the genres of the passage. What I mean is the structure of the passage. How does a writer write a particular passage? That's what I mean when I say what are the various types of passages. So here are a few types that I have put down. There may be many more types, but these are the ones that are actually given to you. These are the ones that are commonly found in your exams. So you have the descriptive passages, you have the narrative passages, you have the analytical passages, you have the factual or data-driven or expository or informative passages, you have the comparison and or contrast passages, you have the sequential and or the chronological passages, and you have the argumentative, which is exactly the persuasive passage also. Now, the writer, please understand that the structure of the passage actually depends on what the writer is writing about. Because imagine you are writing about, somebody has asked you to write an essay on Antarctica. Well, that's going to be descriptive. If somebody asks you to write about what happened to you in your summer vacation, so you're going to be talking about what happened. So you went to the summer vacation. Where did you go? What did you see? It's going to be a narrative. You're going to narrate whatever has happened to you. So automatically the structure would become a narrative. I went here. I did this. I saw this. So the story is being narrated. Or you could be narrating it for somebody else. So Rohan went here. Rohan did this. Rohan saw that. So narrative passage. The third is an analytical passage. So if I asked you to analyze the state of the Indian economy now that it is 3 years post-COVID. So you will talk about it, you will give facts, you will give your opinions also, right? Which are based on those facts. So the passage will be analytical in that case. Then if I ask you to talk about the Indian economy, let's say somebody says, okay, why don't you write about the state of the Indian economy currently? Now that's going to be a factual or a data driven passage. It's going to be informative or expository, right? So factual passage. If I asked you to compare the US economy in late 1980s to the Indian economy in the late 1980s, it could be a comparison or it could be a contrast. In comparison, we talk about the similarities. In contrast, we talk about the differences in the two. But very much there is a comparison that is happening. So I take one, I take the other, and I talk about similarities, and then I can also talk about the dissimilarities. So that is how you write a comparison or contrast passage. If somebody asked you to, okay, write down the steps to making a chocolate cake, you would use the sequential narrative, right? You would say, hey, first do this, second do this, third do this, fourth do that. So that's sequential. Chronological is also very close. In chronology, you need a time to be important. So Akbar was born first, then was So first was Babur, then was Humayun, and then was Akbar, and then so on. Chronology, in terms of time, you're talking about a sequence. And then, of course, the argumentative or the persuasive structure where I try to, or the author tries to convince you of the goodness or the badness of something. So here are a few passage types which, if you can understand while reading, will help you identify the passage, will help you in a deeper understanding of the passage. So I've got a few passages with me. Let's read and let's understand each one of these. So these are the various types of passages that you would get. So you could get a descriptive, a narrative, analytical, or any one type of passage. Now, mostly today, the articles that are being sourced in CAT come from different essays. Specifically, a lot of them are coming from Aeon essays, or they're coming from journals. So journals, research material that is being taken and then being used to identify articles, and very interesting journals that are being used as sources for articles. Anyway, we will talk about more of those and where the sources are and what are the sources as we go along. Let's take a look at a few passages which describe each one of these types. So here is a very beautiful descriptive passage that I picked up. And this is about the Niagara Falls and the Niagara River. So let's take a look. A number of bridges have spanned the Niagara River. You can pause this video, read, and then carry on also, or you can just follow me as I read along. So a number of bridges have spanned the Niagara River in the general vicinity of the fall. The first was a suspension bridge above the gorge. It was opened for public use in July 1848 and then remained in use till 1855. A second bridge was commissioned with 2 deck levels and one for use by the Western Railway. This bridge opened in 1855. In 1882, the Grand Trunk Railway took over the second deck, so they had 2 decks now. Structural improvements were made. So we are talking about the bridges that have been built around the Niagara Falls or the Niagara River. So we are describing the bridges as they happened, which all were there, how many bridges, who took them over, and so on. So that's essentially a descriptive passage. A narrative passage where somebody is telling you something. Now this is a first person narrative, so the author is talking about himself. Excuse me. So it's a first person narrative. So take a look. I never knew why my mother wasn't close to her brother Hal. I can guess. It's possible that he didn't help out with financially with their parents. It's possible she didn't like his wife. It's possible that she resented the fact that her parents had found the money for him to go to Columbia but made her go to public college. Who knows? The secret is dead and buried. So he's telling you a story. He's narrating the story of why the mother doesn't like the brother. Right? So that is a narration. When somebody tells you a story. The story could be of himself, the story could be of somebody else also. Analytical. Like I said, when we are doing an analysis, we are talking about why something is good and why something is bad. So here is a passage talking about Rishi Sunak, the current UK Prime Minister and India's son-in-law, and why there is going to be a problem with him, or why is there a problem currently with his leadership. This is so far so good, so thankfully as of now. But the problem with restoring normal services is that normal expectations will soon follow. A grateful nation is not going to hand the Conservative Party a historic fifth term just because it has stopped electing chaos spirits to lead it. So you need something better. To win the next election, Sunak needs to give skeptical voters a solid reason to put across. So he needs to give a solid reason. It's not yet clear that his party are up to it. Then the writer talks about what is the situation like. In fairness to the Prime Minister, to be honest, he starts in an extraordinarily difficult position. So the writer tells you about the position. Okay. Now, whatever are the positions, whatever is the problem, so he's inherited the cabinet. There is what happened in the Truss leadership. It is difficult to change course and seize initiative in the second half. Even if he had a new legislative program, there's no time or timetable or space to do it. So we are talking about what is wrong with Rishi Sunak's, prime ministerial venture, that he is fine. Why will he find it difficult? So there is an analysis that is going on, and that is why analytical. A factual or data driven or expository or informative passage. We talk about Antarctica in this passage. So there are rivers that are there. Where is Antarctica? What is the longest one? What is the largest continent? Fifth largest? What is the size? What is the coastline? See, very factual. We are talking about the data around Antarctica. I'm really fascinated by it, and that's why so many of my passages come from Antarctica. So factual. A comparison or contrast. Like I said, a comparison will give you similarities and a contrast will give you differences. So in a passage where we cover two things, but let's say we are talking of the similarities, it's comparison. When we are talking of differences, there will be a contrast. Now take a look. Many Americans have criticized their education system, citing low standards. However, Chinese immigrants hold a different opinion because they consider the education system as one of the best in the world. So now I know what we are talking about. We are talking about the education system of the Americans and comparing it to other types of education system, right? So there is a very beautiful passage which is based on this. So when you give the comparison, take a look. Even the students from Shanghai emerged top in 2011. Parents are still skeptical of the quality of Chinese education. They say education focuses on communist idea and history. The exams is so difficult that students must be doing bizarre things to cheat, to pass. Okay. In Chinese universities, it is very difficult to get in. More difficult than American universities. They have very few internationally recognized universities. In contrast, oh, see, beautiful. So they have given you a contrast. So we know that this is a contrasting passage. They have many international universities, colleges. They have quality. Okay. So see the difference now. So we are talking of the American system versus the Chinese system. So comparison or contrast. Sequential or chronological. Step 1, chop tomato and capsicum. Step 2, prepare the cream cheese filling. Step 3, prepare the sandwich. Just the steps tell me it is a sequential passage. Right? If they had given us dates, it would have been a chronological passage. Very simple. Argumentative or persuasive? When you are telling someone that, hey, this is something that I like, why don't you like it? So look at this passage. This is a passage where somebody is applying for a position and they're saying, hey, this is a job that I would be really suited to. See, he says, I read the job description before applying and it seems like self-management is mentioned a lot. That's one of my strengths and something I've been working a lot to develop and improve. So he's talking about what he has done in self-management. In my last job, boss checked me only once a week. He was just letting me manage. So he is trying to convince you, why should you hire him? So this is an argumentative or persuasive essay. I will suggest you pause this passage, read it, take a minute, understand how he is trying to persuade the hirer that he will be a perfect candidate for hiring, right? Very beautiful, very argumentative and very, very persuasive. So this is how an argumentative or persuasive essay could look like. Now, when you will next year write your SOP, a statement of purpose for admission into B school, this is what you will do. They will say, why should we select you? This is something that you will write. This is exactly the way you will write. You will try and convince him that you are the best candidate that is possibly there for this particular college. So argumentative or persuasive essay is what you are going to write in your statement of purpose. Okay. Alright, that's it. I hope you've understood that these are different types of writings that you will find. Well, next question that we hit upon. Are there different types of topics that are asked? Yes, there are different types of topics that are asked also. What we said at the initial stage, what are the different genres that are being tested on? Well, there are different topics that are being tested. So let's take a look. Now, there are so many different types of RC topics. You get broadly, if we have to break it up, the passages come from business and economics. So you could have current affairs topics from current day businesses. You could have basic economics, basic businesses, terminologies, research that is being tested. Then you get passages from humanities. Now, what do I mean by humanities? You can get passages from art, from culture, from literature, from philosophy. So one very beautiful source of reading from literature is aldaily.com, which is something that I have suggested to you many times, that you go to aldaily.com. They have a lot of articles from art and literature. The name Al Daily is Arts and Literature Daily. So Al Daily, so you can get a lot of literature from there. Then Philosophy Today can give you a lot of articles from philosophy. Then you can get articles from culture, and a very beautiful look at the magazine section of Guardian and New York Times. They have an entire section devoted to culture. They have an entire section devoted to science and technology. They have various sections that are devoted to different things. And these are things that are going to be very helpful to you to read. So please read as much as possible. Then philosophy also, the spelling of philosophy is incorrect. Please, my apologies. I don't know why I have written the philosophy. Okay. Now in philosophy, you can read about the various isms. So what is communism? What is socialism? What is Buddhism? And ism is a philosophy or a school of thought. ISM. Okay. What is mesmerism? What is sadism? What is masochism? And various types of philosophies. There are so many of them. So all of these types of philosophies can be very interesting and can be very, very helpful to you while you are reading. So humanities, there is a lot of topics that are out there and those should be taken care of. Then social sciences. So articles coming from history, polity, geography, what you have done in school. So the article that I was showing you from Antarctica, that was geography, right? We were talking about how large is it, what is the size, what is the river, what is the climate, and so on. So geography. Polity, what is the state of politics, what is, stuff like that. And history, of course, So who were the Aryans, who were the Dravidians, what happened, who was Ram, who was... and when did the Indians go to China, when did the Chinese come to Indians, and so on. So history. Articles ranging from these three are covered in social sciences. So that's one more topic that we cover. Okay. Then natural sciences. Natural sciences are physics, chemistry, and biology. So a lot of articles are covered from these topics also. Physics, chemistry, biology, they will give you hardcore stuff also. Though a lot of times now the articles are very new in the sense that because a lot of technology, a lot of new experimentation is happening. So whatever latest researches are coming in are also part of, articles and are also being given to you. So those, if you wish to read about natural sciences, then Scientific American is a journal that you should be reading. You will get a lot of stuff from there. And of course, like I keep saying, and I harp upon it many, many times, current events also will be very, very important. So these are certain areas from which you are sure to get topics. Okay, you will get articles from business, from art, from literature, from philosophy, from history, from polity, from geography, from chemistry, physics, and many more topics also, guys. Remember, this is an indicative list. It is not only limited to this, because you can get articles from modern newspapers like Guardian, like New York Times, like Wall Street Journal, and they have all types of topics that are being covered. So there is no fixed source, or there's no fixed thing that, okay, this is all I need to read. But yes, these are some things that you need to read and some things that you need to understand also. Now here are a few articles again from different types of passages. So here's one on humanities. So here what we actually have in Jurassic Park is a non-animated Disney epic. So this is an article about a movie which is based on Jurassic Park, and it talks about how is that movie interesting and how is that movie doing well. Okay, so related to culture, if you go to the cultural section of the movie of the newspaper, where you will find a review. Now this is essentially a review of a movie. Okay, so you do, if you go to the culture section of your newspaper, you will find reviews of movies, of bands, of plays, of books, and these are all part of your humanities area, and these are all tested very beautifully. So you will find lots of stuff like that in reviews, and these are wonderful sources of articles also. If you wish to read this, pause the video now and read. Okay. Then articles from science. Now, like I said, science can have a lot of articles. You have physics, chemistry, biology. You have so many of the mixed sciences. And now because a lot of research is happening in the multidisciplinary fields, so there will be a lot of overlap of one subject with another subject also. And that's perfectly okay. If you look at the Nobel Prize winners, economics with biology and stuff like that is what is now in. So our articles also come from these, multidisciplinary sorts, but that's perfectly okay. Again, Darwinism has not even modified our ideas of chief good. We may take that as the welfare of the community realized in its members. So again, we're talking about science and how science and welfare are intermingled. Again, pause and read. Then social sciences, like we said, civics, history, geography, and stuff like that. So here is a very beautiful article by an American socialist who built an influential body of social. So as we were saying that scientific passages would look something like this. So you talk about whatever is important in science and carry on from there. Now, articles based on social sciences will talk about history, will talk about geography, will talk about, stuff like that. So you can have a lot of articles based on social sciences also. Each one of these, take a look at this article, it's very interesting. So it's talking about the American sociologist Irving Goffman building an influential body of social analysis based on certain things and talking about this. So take a look. Uh, Business and economics. Now, business and economics articles are very popular, and these are part of your life because as a corporate entity in the corporate world, you will require a lot of input from business and economics. So reading up on these, understanding these, solving questions based on these will be very, very important. So take a look at this one. This one talks about the birth of capitalism, how capitalism has stayed resilient these past 250 years, and how you can understand that it had an enduring strength. So this passage is talking about the capitalistic system, the modern capitalistic system. So related to business and economics. Again, like I said, if you wish to understand, if you wish to read this article, pause and then read. Here's an article from Current Affairs. So this one is talking about, very interesting article about digital lives, about how earlier there was a mall culture, but now nobody wants to go anywhere, nobody wants to sit in a mall, and nobody wants to read or enjoy anything. Everybody wants to stay at home and get into the digital world. So Current Affairs talking about what is happening in the current world, how people are changing, how the thought process has changed, and how people are changing as a result of that. So articles based on current affairs, not necessarily asking you for data, but are showing you how the people have changed, how society has changed, how our thought processes have changed, is very important. So this is another type of article that you will find, and this is a very peculiar genre that you are finding. Now, let's come to the next issue, next question at hand. Are there different ways of reading? Well, yes, there are many different ways of reading. You can skim, you can scan, you can skip, or you can read continuously also. So let's learn a little bit about each one of this. What is skimming? What is scanning? What is skipping? Or what is reading continuously? Now, skimming, the word skim comes from milk. So when you skim the milk, you take out the cream of the milk. So skimmed milk, I'm sure you have heard of this. The toned milk is skimmed milk. So from that you take out the cream, and then whatever is left is the skimmed milk. So when you are skimming something, essentially you are reading a few portions of the passage and understanding, okay, what is it? So you end up reading just the top line, just important italicized text, any text that is in bold faced, you read those and you leave everything else. So reading from the top and leaving everything else is called skimming. Scanning or previewing. Now, this is something that I really believe in. Now, a scan or a preview means you look at, before you start reading in depth an article, you look at, the first lines and the last lines of a passage in detail. So, what you do when you're scanning or previewing, you will essentially read a passage, but read only the first and the last lines of the paragraphs that are there. So, let's say you have a 3-paragraph RC, then you read the first line and the last line of all the 3 paragraphs. That is about 6 lines. So what this does is it gives you a picture of what goes where. So when we think of the structure of the RC, we know, hey, in the first paragraph you've got this, in the second paragraph you've got this, and in the third paragraph you've got this. Now if you go back to your reading concepts or your writing concepts, when we used to write articles, what we used to do was we used to identify the topic sentence right in the first line itself, and that is how people write traditionally also. So when we write, or when anyone writes, they generally, the first line is the topic line. So if you read the first line of the paragraph, you know what the writer is going to talk about in this paragraph. For example, here if you look at this paragraph, it says historically anarchism arose not only as an explanation of the gulf between the rich and the poor, and of the reason why the poor have been obliged to fight for their share of a common inheritance, but as a radical answer to the question what went wrong that followed the ultimate outcome of the French Revolution. So something went wrong in the French Revolution, and a result of asking what went wrong arose this movement which was called anarchism. So we have understood what this passage is talking about, what this paragraph is talking about, right? So you look at the first and last lines and you identify what the passage will talk. Skipping. Now when you're skipping, what you do, you read certain text, you leave certain text. Now skipping is something that is not very good for inferential passages. This is something you can do when you're looking at keywords and you're trying to solve questions based on factual answers. So let's say there is a factual question. This is according to the passage, what is this and that? In that case, you take the keyword from the question and you go to the passage and you directly look for the keyword and spot your answer there. So in these cases, skipping can help. So what you will do is you will look for the keywords and then you just find the keyword and solve the question that way. So keyword approach is what you do while you're doing the skipping. This can help you, but I won't say it is the best solution for anything. But if you have if you have factual questions, well, then skipping can be helpful. I won't say it will always be very helpful, but for factual questions, yes. Then, all right. So like I said, there will be some important tips for reading. So yes, here these are. Pay attention to these 11 tips and we will talk about this. So read. Number one, don't need to understand everything. Yes, you don't need to understand everything, especially words. Sometimes there are words which stop you from reading ahead. Well, don't do that. Continue to read. You will get the essence of a passage even if you don't understand every single word. Remember, scientifically proven that if you don't know 40% of the words, you only know 60% of the words, you can still read and understand an article. So number one, you don't need to understand everything. You're not God. Don't worry. You don't also need to know everything. I don't know about this. Well, nobody's expecting you to know. You're supposed to read a passage and you're supposed to solve the questions based on what is written there. So no prior knowledge is required. Number two, read for a purpose. Yes, we are here not for entertainment. We are here to read for a purpose. Our purpose is to solve those 4 questions. So that should be your purpose. That should be why you're reading this article. Do not think about random things while you're reading. You might find it very boring, but don't get bored. It's important. Read. Number 3, select what you need to read. Don't read random stuff. Well, this is for general reading also. So choose what you need to read. Choose your articles well and then carry on with reading. Number 4, learn to filter and read only the important stuff. While you're reading generally, yes, this is important. Learn to pick up the important stuff and read only that. Unnecessary extra information you don't need to read. For example, examples. For example, details of stuff. For example, definitions of things you don't really need to read. So don't read it. Whatever is important, spot that and read. We will talk about this also. Number 5, scan before you start. Like I say, scanning or previewing is life and death. Whenever you're reading, before you start reading, scan the passages. You will know what you're reading. Your mind will get activated. Very important. Number 6, choose what to read and when to read. So generally when you're reading, don't read any random stuff. Don't read any useless stuff. Read good stuff. Read good level material. And also choose a good time for yourself. Though when there is a lot of crowd, when there are lots of people, don't read. You will not be able to read well. And then your heart will go out of the reading process. So don't do that. Number 7, make sure you have a suitable environment. Well, a suitable environment means there is quiet, there is place to sit, you have a table, a chair, you have a laptop in front of you, because let's understand, we are preparing for an exam which is based on a computer. So you should get used to that also. Read on your computer. Number 8, don't get frustrated while you're reading. Read till the end. If your goal is to read this article, read this article completely. Don't lose heart. Oh, I'm not able to understand. Where you don't understand, make small notes while you're reading. At the side of the paragraph, keep a scratch page. Okay, keep a scratch page. This is very important. Keep a rough sheet of paper, a pencil, and write down what you're reading. For every paragraph, write 2-3 words. You will know what is happening there. That's very important. Read with a focus. Your focus is to understand what this writer is saying. So keep concentrating on that. If your mind is wandering, bring your mind back, collect your thoughts and read. Tell yourself, okay, what is it that I have read? Take a minute, recollect and then continue. And last but never the least, read as much as you can. When we were talking of the genres, I said there will be so many types of articles that you will read. There will be so many genres. You may not know everything. But if you have read certain genres and if it appears in an exam, it will make you happy and it will give you that added confidence. So read diversely, read eclectically, read as much as you can. Varied reading is going to be very important and very, very helpful for all of you. So those are some important tips for my readers. Of course, you know that I have started a course on reading comprehension in the plus classes also. So if you wish to continue more, learn more about these things, you can also join us there. So this course will be adequate for anyone who is just starting out. Okay, now here is your bonus. I promised that I would give you a bonus, and this is it. So here are 10 books that I am telling you, 10. 10 books for interested readers. These are all very excellent books, will be lovely to read. These are not for beginners, please. Okay, so you will, if you are a little advanced, if you have gone beyond Harry Potter and Chetan Bhagat and such like, then this will help. Okay, so number 1, Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. Number 2, Animal Farm by my very favorite author George Orwell. There's another one by George Orwell, that's 1984, but I didn't want to list all of them here, so that I will put in a different list. Number 3, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Now, Sapiens is a very interesting take on human evolution, so that's wonderful. Then Lateral Thinking by Edward de Bono, very interesting. The Diary of a Young Girl by Annie Frank. This is something that is very heart-touching. So yes, that Immortals of Meluha by Amish Tripathi, somebody who brought high quality readership to English readers in the modern, in the 2000s. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. This is something that my son swears by. So here's one by my son. Elon Musk by Ashley Vance, because he is somebody who's changing the face of our world as we go along. So Elon Musk, read more about him. Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is something that my very dear friend Shabana ma'am spoke about, and I really find this interesting. So yes, Atomic Habits, how you can break up all your habits to very small things. This is life-changing also. And Autobiography of a Yogi, which anyone who's interested in human life, in us, in the Indian way of thinking, in Indian philosophy, will find it very interesting. Autobiography of a Yogi. So here is your bonus, guys. 10 books for all my interested readers. Alright, here's a quick announcement around. So CAT 2022 toppers, here are some of them. At Unacademy, we have 75 plus 99 percentilers and 110 plus 98 percentilers. Here is another list of toppers. The Zero to Zenith batch started on 5th of January. Use the code AbhiCatLive and subscribe. 75 plus 99 percentilers, again 0 to Zenith batch. Code remains the same, AbhiCatLive. If you wish to dream big for Resolve 2023, please take the subscription. 6th of Jan is the last date for this. Again, code will remain the same, AbhiCatLive. The Perfect Score batch for repeaters is starting on 16th of January. There's a huge lineup of educators which you can subscribe to. Again, the code will remain AbhiCatLive. Perfect Score batch, the USPs, you will complete the syllabus by May 2023, then 6 months of extensive revision and practice, one subscription, 25,000 plus practice questions, 100 plus mocks, in-class doubt solving via the raise a hand feature, educator curated notes and study material, and mentorship from CAT experts and IIM graduates. Well, if you are somebody who wrote CAT 2022, the Unacademy GDPI offering is coming live. We're starting from the 10th of January. GDs, interviews, and WATs. Be ready. The Unacademy CAT subscription, there are two types of subscriptions that you can take, the Plus or the Iconic. The Plus subscription features digital notes, unlimited access, interactive live, structured courses, open house, community, live test and quizzes, and ask a doubt and raise a hand feature. The Iconic subscription on top of this also has physical notes, GDPI WAT, one-to-one live mentorship, live doubts, test analysis, expert guidance, and Discord. So please do subscribe. The code will remain the same. It is AbhiCatLive, AbhiCatLive. Watch new special classes every day at 7 p.m. Plus, I have just started the CAT 2022 reading comprehension. You can join in, and 99 Percentile Club and Let's Crack Verbal is where you will find me on YouTube on Unacademy. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. Here are my connection details. You can connect with me on Unacademy using Abhilasha_S. Find me there and follow me for all the special classes and everything else. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. I hope this session was useful. In the next class, we will continue with reading comprehension. Some more interesting inputs coming your way. Thank you. Have a nice day.